Here we are, episode 9 of the Worship Online podcast. Today we're talking about practice! Practice. We should have practiced. So we're continuing our conversation about tips for worship team members. And I keep saying that it's tips for worship team members, but I'm pretty sure every episode we ever going to do
is going to
be tips for worship team members.
You had a very southern accent just then. It was great.
I really did.
We're gonna this is all for everyone. All
Sometimes
right.
my Louisiana accent comes out.
I have a trucker accent I really like a lot, but it just
you like
comes
it
out,
a lot.
Yeah, well, it just comes. It's the one I go to a lot. It's just automatic.
Oh, cool.
If I ever try,
That's pretty good.
So I'll try to not use it ever.
Cool.
But, this is a good one, and honestly, last week was one of my favorites. Sitting down talking with Max.
Yeah.
It was so fun, and we talked a lot about practice. We talked a lot about serving our team members and how we can get involved and just make that just a whole part of who we are.
Yep.
And obviously, it's a huge part of what we do with Worship Online is helping people practice to their best, and I think he even mentioned it, and I agree. Like, if we had Worship Online when we were in high school, gosh.
He really dove into how great Worship Online was after we stopped filming. And I was like, you could have said all that on camera in front of everybody, but great. Now no one knows how much
so I'll
you like it.
recap and from his mouth. No. But honestly, it's like there's such value in the videos, the content, and I get to say all this, right? Because I'm just here on the podcast with you. You've started it, so I'm like bragging on you. But
I know.
I think it really. You're like, keep it coming. I have to stay humble.
Yes. I did it all alone. Yes. No one else but me.
Oh my word. But I think that it's so easy. All it takes is just a little bit of extra time in getting away and practicing, and how important that is.
Yeah, I actually have a story about that. So when I first started playing guitar, and I mentioned this in episode 7, I think, about this guitar player that everyone loved, and like he was like the best guitar player in town. Like everyone wanted to be like him. I wanted to be like him. I looked up to him. It was awesome. One day we were leaving a set we were leaving a rehearsal, and we were leaving. I was saying bye. He's like, or we were talking, and he said, "I gotta head out. I've got a guitar lesson." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you teach guitar lessons. Like, I want to take guitar lessons from you." He's like, "No, I take them." And I was like, "What?"
Wow. Yeah.
Blew my mind. And that's when I first got this idea about how important practice was, and even the greats practice.
Yes. Yeah.
And that even goes into humility, but we won't even go back. You can go back and listen to 7,
right.
But that's the humility of it. And then that was when it clicked to me, like, this is awesome because he's not great because he was just born with more talent. He's great because he continues to practice and continues to grow his skill and continues to push that boundary when so many people get complacent in their skill, which is a huge issue in the worship music. It's so simple to get complacent and just stop practicing. I've gone through seasons where I just don't, you know what I mean? But then I go through seasons where I'm just on it. But it really blew my mind to kind of get this idea as a young musician, why people are great at really anything. It's not because they're just great. They put in the work and they continue to practice and they continue to grow at it. And
That's so true.
Great because they practice.
Yeah, when they learn from other people. Like, how crazy is it? I mean, you think about practice being going down and opening up PCO and just learning the songs. No. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's practicing for a worship set. But how are you the best musician you can be? And so for you advanced guitar players out there, what are the new scales you're working on? What are the new things you're learning? Some of the best players I know, I can think of a couple guys off the top of my head that have just changed my life as guitar players because I would watch them and they would spend all of their extra time holding a guitar and just playing it. Whether it's just scales or just warming up. Austin's even mentioned this before. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned on the episode, but just warming up for drums, the impact that has on playing. Just little things like that. And I think that's so important to helping a team, and it really speaks a lot to, this goes back to our earlier episode, but what that brings to those flow moments. If you're really seasoned and practiced as a player, knowing when to play, when not to play, what effects to use, you're actually playing through amps when you're practicing and playing through your pedals and tweaking different things, you'll be able to know what to give to those moments of flow when the band's just kind of operating in the spirit and being led. And I think those are moments that come from obviously playing together as a team, but it also comes from just getting away and practicing and knowing that you can kind of lean on that gift when you need to.
Yeah. And that, I mentioned this in a past episode too, but one of the greatest things that you can do as a leader of your team to get other great musicians is to become great yourself. Yes. Practice yourself. That's going to attract other really great musicians.
That's so true.
And there's a reason. It's kind of the reason that some churches have 10 musicians for every instrument, and they go so deep because everyone wants to play with the great musicians. It's way more fun, first of all. Yeah. But you have some leadership there and guidance, and it's just everything sounds better, as opposed to some churches that are struggling to find a bass player each week. Yeah. And I would just take a look at the leadership. Are they being intentional about getting better themselves, practicing their skill? Yeah. Because
it attracts.
To say it again, great musicians attract other great musicians.
Totally. And worship leaders love that. I mean, if you can get a great guy who comes prepared and he practices it out, like he knows, like it's not just adding to the team or adding value to the team, it's adding to the future team. Yeah. It's adding to the people that are going to want to be a part because of that person. Yeah. And I think that that's really important. It's an added thing in how we're serving, our teams and stuff. But that goes right along with what we're doing. And I would be interested to know, this is like super it's just quick plug, but I would really be interested to know from our teams that have online subscriptions, because there's like team subscriptions. I'd love to know which of them have like just seen big growth in their worship teams, because I know that if there's worship teams that are watching these videos and tutorials, it's going to exponentially help their teams grow as a result of this, is what we're talking about. It'd be cool to kind of get that test and see.
The thing we actually get emails pretty often from team accounts who say something similar. Like it's taken our team like to like another level. Like people are having more fun. It's just way more enjoyable because everyone shows up we make it so easy to practice. Like it's so easy to worship online. Yeah. It's so easy, but with even though it takes not very much time, the content you're getting is extremely valuable, because when you show up to rehearsal, everyone's like knowing how to play
and it's
each
uniform
part.
And that's what I love about it. It's like you can go online and maybe find a guitar player playing something close to the record, or you can find the drummer, the bass player that keeps everybody playing the same version of the song in the same database. And I think that's what's cool, is because you get guys that are learning from the same place. It's like, which of the 10 versions of the song are we playing? Well, it's the one that we've released through Worship Online, and the one we handed out. And I think it's a unifying factor with the team. And I love that. I think it's great.
And you can tell there's a difference between teams that are willing to invest in that kind of practice, or invest in growing their teams. Like, for instance, like, not to say Worship Online is the end all thing, but a leader who's willing to invest, or a musician who's willing to invest in themselves to get something like Worship Online, or whether it's something different like Worship U or something from Bethel, or something like that. Like they're willing to make that investment into themselves because they see the value in it, and it. You can see the overflow in their teams because they've invested in their team, and it's important to them. Whereas there's some leaders, who aren't maybe willing to make that. Again, I'm not talking specifically about Worship Online. Aren't willing to maybe make that investment, or that time investment, that whatever it takes, to do that, what I mean?
Yeah, totally, man. I think that's a huge factor, and I think that obviously this is more about helping you understand how important practice is for your team's sake, but I also feel like it works so well because that's what Worship Online's all about. So we're obviously talking about it, but we really believe in it. We're believers in it because it's worked so well for teams. It's worked so well for worship leaders, and just to be able to, and that's why I love these team accounts. It's because it's like you can build build a set list. You can show all of your worship team members what they need to know to be prepared for a set.
Yeah.
And it goes so much farther than just the individual taking it on. You're actually helping resource it as a leader, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So worship team members, you can go and maybe try to influence, your team to get one, but it starts on your own. And I think maybe for a lot of you, it's taking that initial step to getting your own subscription so that you can find the value in it yourself, and then showing your team leader. And I think that speaks volumes to the leader rather than just like expectation or entitlement.
Exactly.
It's like, I've invested into this and it's worked for me. Let's do this for the team.
Yeah. And that's the story we get all the time, is like musicians starting it themselves. Yeah. And then they're like, wow, this is great. And then the worship leader sees that, oh, this musician's like liking this and it's working. And then it eventually becomes a whole team thing, and it just kind of revolutionized the whole team. But if there's one thing, as opposed to this mini Worship Online plug we've had, there's one thing that I would love to just get across to our listeners is this idea that you should never stop improving, no matter how good you are, or how good you think you are. There's always someone better. There's always some way to continue to grow your skill. You owe it not only to yourself, but to your team members to continue to raise the bar of that skill level for your team. It's just so important.
So important. That will never stop.
Yeah. Whether you had to, I started taking guitar lessons. Like, I wish I still was, actually. If I had the time, I would keep taking guitar lessons. I don't get to play guitar as much these days as I usually. But yeah, take a lesson. Like, go find a lesson. Somebody who can teach you something. One of the biggest thing that helped me when I'm like, because you always go through these dips where you feel like you're not getting better. One of the biggest things that helped me, and I actually wrote a blog post about this on the website. And I titled it "The Reason You're Not Getting Better as a Musician," is to find inspiration. Find something that inspires you to be like, whoa, I just got to pick up my instrument or my whatever and just play that. And that's going to inspire you to practice your instrument. Yeah. It's not exactly always fun to sit down and practice a scale or something, but if you can find something that inspires you, like some John Mayer album or something that's like, wow, and just play along to it. Like, wow, that's amazing. Inspiration is such a huge part of just growing as a musician. If you're not inspired, it's hard to pick up your guitar or your keyboard or anything and practice.
It is. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Yeah. But I want to go out on a limb here and say that if you really love something, you'll invest into it. Yeah. And then when you actually pay for it, it will be more valuable to you. Yeah. So it's like with anything, whether it's guitar lessons, like you can go on YouTube and try to find guitar lessons for free. Yeah. But when you actually make an investment and pay money for something, it will be even more valuable to you because it will have cost you something. Yeah. And I think that that's such an important thing to understand and to realize, even as it relates to whether it's Worship Online or getting your own lessons or whatever, vocals. I mean, get vocal lessons. It helps you so much, and you learn more things when you're working with someone else.
Yeah. It's so true that what you just said when you pay for something, because I just recently got a gym membership. Yeah. And before I lived in an apartment, so I had the free gym there, which in a roundabout way I paid for it, but I really didn't. It was just there free. Right. I skipped working out all the time. Right. Because I didn't value the gym that we had.
It wasn't costing you anything.
And when I moved to a house, I was like, man, really wish I had a gym. And now I got a gym membership and I'm paying for it. And I'm like so more motivated to go to the gym.
You want to use your investment.
Yeah, I'm paying for it. And it's helping me. It's benefiting me. The fact that this is valuable to me.
Yes. Yeah. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your time. Yep. That's great. All right. So speaking of which, we're gonna give away a free subscription. That's if you want to demo it for a little bit.
Yeah. For a year. You can demo for a year, actually.
Throw everything we just said out the window for an entire year. You don't have to invest into it because we're giving it away.
First of all, go sign up for a membership. Yes. And then if you win, you're gonna get it for free.
There you go. So invest into it. And then if you even are already a subscriber, you can still win the annual membership. It'd be like a gift. But go online, worshiponline.com/podcast, get signed up, and that will show that we have also done this. We've received your information from the podcast, which is super cool. That helps the podcast. It's still new. We'd love to get feedback from you, reviews. But we really want to spark a conversation. This is all stuff that we all care about and we love. And I love that Worship Online's doing this podcast, because I think what's so cool is that it's such a niche thing. It's something that we all really care about, and we really want it to succeed. We really want it to do well in our individual churches and in our communities. And we're having these conversations not to show that we just have this head full of knowledge, but because we really are talking to people. We've got a help desk. We've got people that are commenting online. We've got a whole team of people that are having a conversation with other worship leaders and musicians. But we'd love for you to get engaged and come alongside and join this conversation with us. Share the story, share the testimony, share the things that are happening, the things that you disagree with. We'd love to hear from you.
And this is a perfect time of year to release this exact episode, because it's the beginning of the year. This is your time. You can set a goal. Set a goal to like grow in your skill this year. Set a goal to grow as a musician. Awesome. Invest in something like Worship Online or something else you may have. Like anything, I don't know. but invest in yourself. Change. Set your goal this year to be your skill. This is such a great time of the year, releasing this in January. Start. Just get going.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week.